Today I'm going to talk about weddings. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Maggie, so thank you for tuning in, and remember to subscribe so that you can be part of the fam. Today I'm going to talk about weddings. I had my wedding 2 years ago right now, and today I'm going to share a number of tips that I think would be helpful if you are in the journey of choosing a wedding gown. It's a big deal. And it's the biggest day, one of the biggest days of your life, so you want to get it right. Tip number 1, I would say, when choosing your wedding gown, give yourself ample time. I know that some of us are last minute. At hindsight, I was also a last minute person. I actually started seriously looking into wedding gowns, I think 3 months to the wedding, and then now seriously settling on one person, one designer, like 6 or 8 weeks to the wedding, which is not so good to rush everything, though they got it right. But give yourself ample time so that you can have an easy time, a stress-free time to just try different things and make the necessary changes. So give yourself a couple of months before the wedding to allow yourself to just hunt for gowns, go trying out different gowns without the pressure and the stress that comes with wedding planning. Number 2, I would say pick a theme and try to align even your gown with that theme. For example, if your wedding theme is vintage, then you want to look at vintage designs of wedding gowns. It's going to be very important so that you're not misplaced as the bride. Everything is vintage, but you pick a theme and then align to it. It's going to be very easy to narrow down to what kind of dresses you can have. The third tip that I have: set your budget and try as much as possible to stick to it. Most ladies, when they set the budget but they find something they really love, then they try to tweak and settle for something even more expensive that probably you can't afford. So I would say set your budget right. After you've shopped around for dresses, because you started early, you would probably know what amounts you're dealing with, but set your budget so that even as you try to settle for someone, then you have a budget to stick to guide you on the dresses that can fit that budget. One of the things that I did with my designer, who is at Isani Culture on Instagram, I told her my budget so that we could also try and use fabrics that fall within that budget. So I avoided lace, because lace I know is very expensive, and I tried to do something very simple. So we did satin, like the matte satin. So I was able to stick to my budget by telling her that we can avoid this and this, and she was also able to advise me we can avoid this and this so that we can stick to this budget. So set a budget and try as much as possible to stick to that budget, because everything in a wedding budget matters. It's going to throw you off if you don't factor in the budget. Number 4, when you're choosing a wedding gown, consider your body type. First, be open to trying other designs, but once you settle and see that I look better in an A-line dress or a body fitting dress, consider your body type. Once I discovered that I really look good in off-shoulder dresses and off-shoulder tops, then I was sure that I was going to look good in my wedding gown. So if you like A-line dresses, you most likely are going to move towards that direction when it comes to your wedding gown. So first, you consider your body type and try and wear as many of the kind of dress that you want. Like if you want an off-shoulder, try and wear off-shoulder tops, off-shoulder dresses way before to get a feel of how you look, so that it's not a surprise that you've been wearing bodycons all your life, but on the day of the wedding you want an A-line, a ball gown. Yeah, so consider your body type and try and wear the dresses in your day-to-day life that look like that, like have elements of that wedding gown that you really want, and it's going to make you feel more comfortable in how you would envision yourself on the wedding day. I think it's very important actually that you just consider your body type, and once you find what works for you, stick to it, because there are so many designs out there that can confuse you. But once you find that design that works for your body and all your curves, stick to it. The next tip that I have is, when choosing your wedding gown, try as much as possible to stick to your current size. Most brides-to-be envision themselves that they will lose weight before the wedding. Please, it doesn't work sometimes. So when you're doing the fittings, consider your current size and not your size in the future, unless you're pregnant. When you're pregnant, then you should work with someone who will be able to guide you on the appropriate sizing. But if you're not pregnant or not planning to get pregnant before the wedding, then when you're shopping for that dress, stick to your current size. If you lose weight, then it's going to be easy to adjust. But do not do the sizing in the hopes of a future size that you want to achieve. But if you're pregnant and you get a good designer, what they usually advise is that you come for fittings closer to the date, so that they can be able to see where your belly has reached and factor that in. It's going to be a bit impossible to start way early, but it's always advisable that they always advise to move closer to the date. Another tip that I would say is, considering the fact that you gave yourself ample time, make sure you go for several fittings. Now, in my experience, I had a mock fitting. I really liked the approach that we had taken. We had a mock fitting. So first meeting I had with her, she drew the dress that I wanted. From my description, she designed it. Then she sent it, and I was able to approve that this is actually what I want. Then she made a mock dress. Now it's a simple dress. That it looked very simple with very cheap fabric, just kawaida fabric. I tried it on so that I can see how I will look before now they invest in the actual fabric. So that was my first fitting, the mock fitting. And then I had now 2 or 3 other fittings with the actual dress and changes that needed to be made. So I would say that those fittings helped me to garner in the confidence heading towards the wedding day, that everything was fitting right. I remember by the time I was to go for a 4th fitting, I didn't actually need it, and my dress was actually picked by my best maid because everything came in well. So I would say that giving yourself time will enable you to have different fittings with the supplier or the person making your wedding gown, and this will enable them to make any changes. Sometimes you find that you've lost weight because wedding planning can be stressful or up and about, or you can gain weight, and they can do the necessary adjustments. So don't make the wedding date and the time you buy the gown too long. Have a fitting just closer to the wedding date, so that any adjustment that needs to be done is done right there and you're set for the big day. The next tip that I have is, factor in all the accessories that you are going to have on your wedding day when selecting your wedding gown. So envision yourself from head to toe. That will really help you also in choosing a design and settling on the perfect design for you. So for example, you want to check in what kind of hair you will have. You want to check in what kind of earrings you want to have on that day, because there are wedding gowns that look too busy if you have dropping earrings and your wedding gown is also busy here. Consider your earrings. Consider if you want a necklace. I remember the morning of the wedding, my mom really wanted me to have a necklace. I didn't want to have a necklace. It became a big issue, but throughout I had factored in that I don't want a necklace, and I stuck to it. So throughout, consider your accessories, consider your arms. Do you want a watch? Do you want a bracelet? Yet you want your long sleeve gown. You see, it's not going to match up if you had not considered it. Consider your shoes, because at the end of the day, that's going to also dictate the length of your dress. I remember in one of the fittings that I had, I actually went with my actual heels for the day, because I was going to wear heels for the church, and then I was going to wear flats for the reception. So go with both of them so that they can adjust the length of your dress according to your shoes also. Consider also, do you want a veil? If you want a veil, does it go well with this design, or what kind of veil goes with this and this design? My theme was a bit vintage-ish and off shoulder, and the dress looked not so good with a veil, and so we decided to make a very simple veil for that day. It's not entirely a veil, but I don't know what to call it, but it was not the traditional veil that you would have. So it's very important that you consider all the accessories from head to toe and think about them when you are choosing your wedding gown, and ask yourself, do they go with my wedding gown? Does this make it busy? Does this make it, does it really match everything? Does it make my dress longer or shorter? Factor in all your accessories so that you can even know, should my hair be up or should my hair be down? Another point that I would say is consider your venue. Consider whether that venue will be cold or hot. What is the weather of that venue? Do you need to add a poncho to your wedding gown on that day? I know it can be unpredictable, but some venues we know the weather like throughout. If you're going to do in the forest, at some point it's gonna get really cold. So consider your venue, consider the floor plan of that venue. Consider, is it so grassy that if you had a lace gown, a very long lace gown, it will get stuck in the grass? Consider if it's rough. Consider like the terrain of that place. Will a long dress be more stress or easy to navigate? So have a look at the venue that you've chosen and factor in that when you're choosing your wedding gown. It goes a really long way to make your day stress-free. Another point that I'd say is, when you're choosing a wedding gown, go with one person. I see where people go with so many people to choose one wedding gown, and that means you're going with so many opinions. You can go with one or two people. A policy that the designer I worked with had was just have one person constantly taking you for the fittings. This will help in reducing confusion, and also that one friend might remember things that you said in your previous fitting that you forgot. They might actually be the one to remember that. They act like a witness between you and the designer, because they'll say, yeah, you said this, yeah, you didn't want this. So it's very important that you go with one person for your sanity, for your peace of mind. This person acts as your diary to remember what you said, and also gives you an opinion maybe, and it should be someone you value their opinion. Most weddings you find that the mother of the bride has very strong opinions about maybe how the dress should look. So you want to factor that in your fittings. Is she the one you want to go with? I personally went with my mom the second last fitting, so that she could have a look, because she really wanted to be a part of that process. She could have a look and she could make changes where she would like changes to be made. And I personally valued her opinion so much on whether I should have a veil or not. And she's the one who said, let's not do a veil, let's do something unique. So make sure you go with someone whose opinion you value, and so that you can avoid too many voices in your head by going with so many people. The last point that I have is be creative. Be creative with your wedding gown if you have the ability to. Sometimes we buy the ready-made gown, but if you're having someone make your gown, you can be creative. You can have a two-in-one gown. You can have those gowns where you wear something during the church ceremony and something else during the reception. So for example, I had an overskirt during the church ceremony and it looked really nice, but at the reception, because I just wanted to dance and be free, I didn't have that overskirt. So it became a two-in-one dress. People think you've changed, but you've not. And at the same time, you can also make a dress that you can use even after, because I had there was one bride who we were having our dresses made, like she had a really beautiful Ankara dress and an A-line short dress, then on top she had an overskirt. Like I would not know. Once she removed the overskirt, it just looked like a dress you would go with to a function on a Saturday. Like it looked really nice. So be creative. If you choose to make your own gown, I think you can kill two birds with one stone, and you can have something that you can use even after the wedding. One point that I actually forgot to say when talking about budgeting, consider with your budget, consider whether you can afford to pay for a gown or to hire a gown. Sometimes it's very economical to just hire it out if you find the perfect gown with everything you need. So consider if you can hire or you can pay, and consider the pros and cons of both. I think I'll dive into that topic in another separate video, because I also considered both factors, whether I should hire or whether I should just buy my own gown. So I hope that the tips that we've shared today are going to help your search better, even your friends. So make sure you like this video. If there's any other tip for wedding gown, searching for a wedding gown, please share in the comment section. I hope to see you on the next one. Share this video with anyone who would like, and remember to subscribe. Bye-bye.